Yesterday, August 23rd, we held an emergency meeting at State Representative Helen Kerwin's office to dig into the Abolish Property Tax Bill, the People's Bill written by Mitch Vexler, which creates a type of controlled demolition mechanism to wind down the ISD bond debt. Abolishing property taxes is the biggest civil rights movement of our generation, and understanding the reason why, it's so important, guys, the reason why skyrocketing property taxes is happening is vital. It's the bond debt, and the bond debt has caused the state of Texas to essentially become insolvent. Only the federal government can help to create a floor for the existing billions of dollars in Texas ISD bond debt, because obviously, guys, banks and investors, as well as 401k, holds that debt. Now, I had the pleasure of meeting Greg Cooper with the Texas Transparency Group, which is today's video. So if you guys like this video, please go to Greg's page on Facebook, like it and participate. His link is going to be in the description. Now, this is an amazing breakdown and a great video on what's happening under the hood with bonds and property taxes. Now, lastly, we finally found a home to help push the grassroots movement to abolish property taxes. So if you're a Texan and you want to abolish property taxes, please join our new Facebook group. The link is in the description. And other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to share your comments. Let me know what you think and let me know what you learned.
We are Texas Transparency Project, where transparency perpetuates accountability. We are your source for local and state issues that affect each and every one of us. From our state legislature to the county commissioner's court, to school districts and city councils, their actions affect all of us. Locally, rural farms are transitioning into suburban neighborhoods. Texas is growing. Property taxes are increasing. The future of Texas is being shaped. We offer data-driven and sourced information so you have the totality of information. Get involved, stay informed, and work with your neighbors. We are the Texas Transparency Project, where transparency perpetuates accountability.
Hello, Johnson County. Welcome to this episode of the Texas Transparency Project, where we pull back the curtain on government and local politics that impact our lives. I'm your host, Greg Cooper, and this is our fifth episode of from our long, much-needed summer break. Just to remind everyone, here at Texas Transparency Project, our goal is to facilitate long-format discussions to really dive into some of the complex topics that affect every citizen of Johnson County. This is our second consecutive episode where we're reaching out to people outside of Johnson County to discuss some of the concerns and some of the challenges that they're seeing that also are similar to what we're seeing here in Johnson County. Today, we're honored to host Travis Spencer. He hosts a podcast called Real Estate Mindset that has a national following, and he's intimately involved with the Eliminate Property Tax fight in the state of Texas. And before we get to introducing Travis Spencer here and asking him a little bit about where his podcast is and what they focus on and what is driving in the future as far as a future, hopefully, legislation to eliminate property tax, we want to make sure that we thank APOS Ranch and Outdoors, as they are a trusted source of animal supply, feed, and animal care, archery, and more here in Johnson County. APOS Ranch and Outdoors, they follow a tradition of the APOS family of businesses founded by legendary Fernando Rodriguez, local residents of the greater Johnson County area, where quality customer service and a commitment to improving the community come together and is a stalwart principle of APOS. APOS's mission statement is to provide goods and services to their customers while creating a team approach to customer service and a commitment to continual improvement while actively supporting the community. They're intimately involved with Johnson County Food Bank, which reaches out and helps those in need, provides food for their families. And Johnson County Food Bank, if you're looking to do any type of local ministry or local outreach, they're a great organization to get involved with. That's also part of APOS's mission to supporting the community. APOS Ranch and Outdoors is located at 1501 North Main Street in Cleburne. Once again, that is 1501 North Main Street in Cleburne. APOS Ranch and Outdoors can be reached at 817-666-1164. Once again, via telephone. APOS Ranch can be reached at 817-666-1164. APOS Ranch and Outdoors, they serve all the Johnson County ranch and outdoor needs and beyond. Mr. Spencer, thank you for joining us on Texas Transparency Project. You're like one of my living idols here with the type of YouTube following that you've been able to amass. Tell us a little bit about Real Estate Mindset, what its a mission is, what it's kind of morphed into now. You've kind of gone into a little bit more away from real estate into property taxes. Tell us a little bit about how you got your start and explain to us where you're at now with that.
Okay. First of all, thank you for letting me be here, Mr. Cooper. It has been a long time coming. I'm absolutely dazzled and flattered to be here. So Real Estate Mindset basically just started as kind of an education platform where I was trying to train realtors first in the Houston market. So it turned into a platform of general education for realtors. From there, it turned into more of a housing market channel where I was going into data, analyzing data on a macro level, and then transitioning that into micro analysis for consumers so that they understood how to use math to find a good deal. And I took a lot of pride in doing that because I felt like I was one of the only people that wasn't grifting from my podcast, essentially saying, be cautious. You may not want to buy right now, but I'm also a realtor and you can contact me and we can go buy a house. So I wanted to be the guy to where you can come to my platform, get an honest, transparent opinion and analysis. And also if you wanted to learn and continue your real estate investing or just your comprehension on mortgages or whatever, that I created a mechanism and a platform to go to. So I've created free courses, free classes. Now, from there, I met Mitch Vexler. And Mitch Vexler, meeting Mitch Vexler was like putting a shot straight into my brain of knowledge. And, he's an academic. He's very genius. And once I started meeting Mitch and working with Mitch, he really opened my eyes to the level of fraud on the bond ISD level. So learning all of these things, right? I felt like I had a platform for people cared about what was going on, and they cared about us exposing, and they cared about us like bringing it to their attention what was going on. So from there, I feel like it's turned political almost. I mean, because what we want to do is we want to eliminate property taxes, and there's reasons why we want to eliminate property taxes. It's bankrupting people. It's causing people to go into foreclosure. We've done the math on all of this. There's amazing levels of fraud. And what I've learned is through this process, is I'm asking myself, is there anyone honest? Like, how do we make a change? How do we change things? How do we stop people from going into foreclosure and bankruptcy? And the more that I went down that rabbit hole, the more that I learned that it seems as though almost every politician is fraud or is lying or is a playboy or is doing things for clout or propaganda. And, it was heartbreaking, quite frankly, Greg. And that's actually why I'm here right now. I wanted to get to know you. I wanted to show you that you were important to me, that your podcast is important to me, and that the people that you're a part of are important to me, because I want to be a part of now, right? That's a brief evolution. I want to be part of your grassroots movement, because I think what you're doing is I think you're a patriot, brother. And, I'm just happy to be here.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm blessed that Texas blesses veterans, and I'm fortunate enough that I don't have to pay property taxes. But I take it personal that someone's picking up my fair share, and some of the abuses we see across the state, and some of the overreaching property tax obligations that the average citizen has. It's quite discerning. And you're no stranger to Johnson County. You have interviewed some of our local residents here and helped them navigate the property tax appraisal process. You've done that on Real Estate Mindset, your podcast. You've also been instrumental in helping us learn down here. Craig Hunley, the Eliminate Property Tax Texas Horse Barn Facebook group, has been instrumental in raising awareness to how the Central Appraisal District works, how the CAD process works. And here again, Texas Transparency Project, we focus on basically Johnson County. We're looking to expand a little bit. We're trying to reach out and make sure that we're not missing anything that's applicable here. But you're much more on a much larger scale. But you're also intimately familiar with what we're doing here in Johnson County, in so much as how we've worked to get the right people on our Central Appraisal District Board of Directors. I think we're very blessed for what we've done. Talk to us about the differences between what you see with Johnson County's Central Appraisal District Board of Directors, what Craig Hunley and his group's been able to accomplish and compared to the majority of the state?
There's no comparison. You guys have essentially taken over your central appraisal district and have people on that board that care about the citizens of that county and residents of that county. The appraisal districts that I'm used to dealing with, it's a dog and pony show. It's not, they're not using math, they're not using USPAP or Texas Property Code 2301 to derive value. So what they're doing there, and I've protested 6 times now, 3 different properties. And each time I went in, either the RPA or down, there's different levels of appraiser at the central appraisal district. They all have different answers. And so what you guys have going here in, Johnson County, in my opinion, and again, this is why, out of all the counties, I wanted to come here because you guys took it over. What you've done is something to be proud of. And what you've done is essentially given back the people power over their government, like it should have been to begin with. All other appraisal districts I'm dealing with right now are, my opinion, they're a renegade criminal organization because they are not following the law. They are not following the math. They are backing a budget from a school into our values, and that is causing massive fluctuations of overvaluation. And that overvaluation is increasing people's taxes thousands and thousands of dollars per year. Their mortgage payment goes up $300 to $400. They're forced to either sell, go bankrupt, or foreclose. So what you guys have here, I believe, is going to be a blueprint for the rest of us in Texas to follow your lead. And I want to be a part of it. And I want to report on what you guys are doing. It is absolutely astonishing that you guys got, I believe, 8 out of the 9 board members elected. And so I'm taking note of that. I want to report back, figure out how in my county, other people's county, how do the people get back the CAD? And that's not, and you, yeah. I mean, that is a very hard thing to do.
It is. It took and I won't lie, I was late to the party in massaging those relationships to get to that point. It took a lot of work, and we're very blessed to have an individual named Craig Hunley, who spent a lot of time developing relationships and a lot of time working with the political subdivisions to basically just lead them down the road that, hey, you're a representative of the people. This is what the people are asking for. Let's get the right people in place here to really, really deep dive and understand what's going on with some of these appraisals. It's what the people are asking for. And we were blessed that we had the majority of our political subdivisions, all but a few ISDs, really, really jump on board with having citizen representation in our central appraisal district. So we're very blessed that our local elected officials really were open to that, but it took years of massaging those relationships and sticking with it. And I think one of the problems a lot of people run into is they don't understand how slow the cogs of local government actually work. These are volunteers. They're volunteering 1 or 2 days a week, and action can only happen in these open meetings. And anybody that's looking to get involved with this, they really need to be in it for the long game and understand it takes time. Have you seen any other progress across the state awareness-wise or anything like that, in so much as at least trending more? And I think it's hard. Here again in Johnson County, I think we've really turned a corner with getting the right people in place on the board of directors. That's the first step, but you could see it begin to trend well as awareness was rising. Do you think on the state level, awareness has been increasing and the people are becoming more aware of the role and the importance of the Central Appraisal District Board of Directors?
Without question. I think that people are waking up, not just so, another thing that I've always tried to do on my channel, even from the very beginning, is exposing bureaucracy or exposing people that are lying or exposing people that are using something as propaganda. And because a lot of the citizens have preconceived notions, if someone of power said something, then they're automatically going to believe them. And it's created this horrible apathy epidemic. Okay, we could talk about that another day. But through me exposing the CADs, me going in there, videotaping, I got assault and battered by the chairman of the ARB. We have a lawsuit that was filed. He was served actually on Friday, so a couple of days ago. So through the exposure plus training plus the math, I could tell you personally, I've seen hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people improve their own comprehension and sharpen their own tools to create success just from the videos and just from the team that we're working with. So we're making a difference. I think that we can make a bigger difference. I think there's a lot more people that need to be woken up. So on one hand, you have you're exposing their heroes, and it's heartbreaking. So we're exposing them. We're saying, here's what's really going on. But the other thing is people are also waking up because of the pain it's creating when you go in. Your property taxes go up, say $6,000 a year. You prepare to protest that. You go to protest it, and they slam you, they embarrass you, they laugh at you, and people are waking up to that and saying, it's time to stop. But even that, it's also slow, right? And so it's all hands on deck. And that's why I think what you and Craig have done for Johnson County, I think you guys are really underplaying that. I think that what you've done here, every county should have someone like you and Craig.
Well, and we're blessed too. There's a lot of grassroots people here that help us. The name, I'm not even going to attempt to name people because I know I'll forget people and that would be wrong. But we are blessed to have a lot of influential people that are really involved. And you bring up the importance of local government, and we have the best government system in the world, but it's very dependent on right, honest, God-fearing people to manage it. It's easily abusable. And us as citizens often fall short because we don't stay involved and
Right.
We don't educate ourselves on the processes. We just kind of let it run its course. And with the wrong people in place, it becomes very ripe for abuse because the average citizen doesn't really have their finger on the pulse of how it's supposed to work and how the processes work. So you do need the right people in place. Here again in Johnson County, we have some school districts that have a lot of the right people in place. A lot of our cities and county commissioners court is off the charts good. And then we have some that are really bad, but it's really important that I think people remember they really need to stay involved and they really need to hold the government officials accountable. If nothing more, just be involved to keep them honest and make them think twice before they begin to go down some of those roads. Do you think that is a problem across the state as well as lack of citizen involvement?
Of course. I mean, it's a huge problem because that people assume that's how government, because you're right, that's how government in the U.S. should work. And so a lot of people have those preconceived notions that they could still trust their government. But the reality is what's happening right now is the people that the government needs in place are people that are going to continue the fraud, because it's only the fraud that's keeping everything alive. And you see that as someone that's in, I think, school financing. You see in some school districts, they need more bonds just to service the existing bond debt. The system is broken. It needs to be reset. We need to obviously abolish property taxes, and we need to take back houses to those owners. If we stop paying, even if a home is paid off free and clear right now, if you stop paying your taxes, almost an immediate, I think the fee or penalty is 25%. The school, I believe, or school or the state comptroller, someone sells that information to a pack of predator investors that are trying to purchase a senior citizen's house for $5,000, right? Because they want $250,000 in equity. So the people in place right now, I can tell you, outside of Johnson County are absolute crooks, and it needs to change. And the only way that will change is by people showing up and caring. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to have enough people care before they're forced to care. And when I say forced to care, bankruptcy, foreclosure, financial pain.
Well, and you bring up the fact that people are losing their homes. Everybody needs to remember, as especially involving bond debt and some of the out of control budgets. If you vote for I'll use Godly ISD. Godly ISD. They're the most egregious offenders of out of control property taxation here in Johnson County. 20th highest taxed ISD in the state. They have well over $80,000 of debt per average daily attending student, and they're asking for another $120 million right now. Currently, they are close to $400 million in debt, principal and interest, per the foundation school program. People need to remember this. When they sign on and they co-sign for this debt, they're not going to come and foreclose on the concession stand at the stadium. They're not going to foreclose on the 50-yard line to the 40-yard line of the football field. They're not going to foreclose on the fancy new track that you just put in or the kick-ass, excuse my French, basketball arena that was inspired by TCU. They're going to come foreclose on your house. They're going to kick you out of your house to get those funds. People need to understand the severity and the real hook that they're putting in themselves regarding the debt that they're co-signing for with these bonds. Unfortunately, bonds are the current mechanism to build a new school, but it is easily abused when these school districts play on fear, obligation, and guilt regarding it's the best interest of the kids. Don't you care about the teachers? And they play this emotional heartstring games when they're diminishing the importance of the hook of this debt. What do you think about that, and how do you look at the mechanisms and the avenues that some of these districts impose? And here again, I want to be really clear. In Johnson County, we have some that are being very, very open about what it will do to your tax rates. I'm going to use Keene and Grandview ISD. They are very open with their voters of their very, very low responsible bonds in the $20 million range of how exactly it's going to affect their taxes. And that's all we can ask for is honesty. Other districts are completely misleading in this. What are your thoughts on some of the misleading narratives that some of these districts use?
I think it's absolute evil. And I think what they figured out is they need to say polarizing comments and say, we're going, it's not going to raise your taxes. Just do this stadium for these children. I mean, it's pure evil. They understand that they can get away with this, and they've successfully, in many ISDs, used teachers, in my opinion, teachers and students as propaganda.
Yes.
Because I've personally known, people have come at me like, Travis, well, what about the teachers? Don't you care about the kids? Well, I mean, 25% of my income goes to my kids' education. There's not a lot of people in this room that care more about ISDs and education than you and I. And so what people should be really doing is looking under the hood on what's going on with the out of control bond debt. The bond debt, it's forcing people out of the county or to move in with their parents. The taxes are so high, there's not going to be many residents left unless they're tax exempt or something like that. It is out of control. Their software that they're using is a renegade software. The Central Appraisal District is the second worst, biggest criminal enterprise in the world after the Federal Reserve. We talk about that later, but it's a real problem, Greg. And what you guys, again, are doing here is beautiful, but you guys still have a lot more work to do. When we had lunch earlier today, I was talking with the chairman of the Johnson County Appraisal District, and I was like, let me show you something, because you guys are cleaning it up, right? But I was like, there's still a problem. So I pulled up multiple listing service because I'm also a realtor. So I pulled it up. I'm like, Peter, let me show you. It took me 30 seconds to identify a property that was overassessed in your county, in Johnson County, by 6 figures. That was within 1 mile from where we ate lunch.
That's crazy. And, here again, we're lucky that we have a board of directors that's open to listening to this. And these are just, selfless citizen servants that are trying to better their community, but we are blessed that they're open to it. It's amazing that you found something that quickly.
Seconds.
We are currently having our Central Appraisal District Board of Directors. We found a substantial amount of properties that had doubled or tripled within a year.
Right.
And then we found a whole bunch more that hadn't changed value within 10 years. And so we found some inconsistencies too. They've done a forensic audit on themselves, which is great because most public entities don't want to look at themselves. Our Central Appraisal District Board of Directors deserves credit from at least allowing the covers to be unraveled and an independent set of eyes look at them. But it's amazing that you could find something that quick.
Well, it's easy because the one thing that they all have in common, right? The uniform and equal is the fraud.
Yeah.
So someone's going to pay, if you're not paying your taxes, the way that the software works is it backs the budget in. So if there are people out here protesting, which everyone wants to protest their property value, it's going to adversely hurt the person that keeps their head in the sand. And that's, again, one of the premises of my channel is to educate people, but also, again, create that mechanism to where they step up, they learn, they change, and then we unify. But in order to do that, the first step is the education part. And it's really difficult when someone is in love with a politician or in love with a bill, because in order for them to understand what we're saying, they first have to get their heart broken.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, I've been working too much. I just want to go home, eat some popcorn, whatever it is people do when they get home. But the reality is, if people are sending their children to public schools, and this hurts me to say because I have a lot of teachers in my family. Public schools have now turned into a daycare that it's a daycare mechanism so that you have a husband and wife or people in the household, that every person in the household has to work. So you're sending your children to public school, which is daycare, the curriculum's garbage, just to work to pay your mortgage and your taxes. It's debt slavery.
Well, and that problem seems to be compounding in a lot of districts too. And schools, if there's anything that they've done, they've really done a really good job. I don't think it's a positive thing for the community, but they've really done a good job at having a smorgasbord of opportunity for children. But what this has done is it's allowed people to become so ingrained that the local school districts have effectively replaced all of our social interaction. They've replaced the church in a lot of reasons, and a lot of things that the local churches used to do. And they do, the amount of things that they're offering has become so encompassing that if a local resident who has children in the school, if they have jumped on board with their local ISDs and then they begin to question some of the stuff that they're doing, they're really, really easily caught between a rock and a hard place, between isolating in themselves and their families, because they have to go against this ingrained social structure that has become so prominent in today's world. It's not healthy. Right. Texas Education Code 4.002 is clear. And the purpose of that is that's the 4 goals of public education. And there's only 4. Right. And it's exemplary performance in the reading and writing and English language, exemplary performance in math, exemplary performance in social studies, and exemplary performance in science. And the bottom line is the schools are doing so much more. And while if you've mastered the basics, that's great. We can have a conversation. If that's good to do, we can have a conversation that if it's responsible to do that. But if you suck at those basic core tenets, which unfortunately we've talked about godly, they suck at their core tenets. They should not be expanding into every little nook and cranny of everybody's lives when they can't master the absolute basics. And we talk about how to raise awareness for this. And we've talked a little bit about Mitch Vexler before, but Mitch Vexler has proposed a piece of legislation that we're hoping to get traction for over the next couple of years. And it's a replacement of the revenue stream of the current property tax system, which would abolish property taxes and replace it with a uniform state sales tax. Tell us a little bit about your work that you've done with Mitch Vexler, how you've highlighted this on Real Estate Mindset, your podcast, and kind of how this, and it's still evolving. We're still working out some of the kinks, but we're at a point where we're ready to start asking for a lot of the citizens to jump on board with this to get momentum to segue into the 90th legislative session in early 27, if we can't do it this special session.
So working with Mitch, I would say the primary body of work that we do is we go after and hold politicians and authority accountable. So we've been doing a lot of criminal complaint workups. We have, and this is spearheaded by Mitch Vexler. We have stuff in with the DOJ. Multiple DAs have made 33 different criminal complaints for ISD's bond debt, the 25% cap, and I know there's a 50-cent rule. I mean, there's all these complexities. We have stuff in with the FBI, SEC. We have the bill. I mean, we're trying to do everything in our power, all of our civil duties to say we tried, we helped. And that's what I'm saying to you. I mean, we can't do this alone. We need to be united like Johnson County. If we're not united like this county on a nationwide level, even with these, I mean, either what's going to happen is it'll all crash and implode in on itself, and it'll be pure pain, the Great Depression, or we could potentially force the politicians by showing up to a mass rally to sit down, call an emergency meeting, and look at what we have. The bill that Mitch has right now at Texas Ledge is 6 pages. And you know what's else is shocking? And I don't want to use any names, but it seems like a lot of people, and you can tell me if this is common, are the politicians reading their bills?
So the politicians get assigned to a committee, and they should be subject matter experts in those committees or any of the bills they author. They're dependent upon different study groups and different groups to understand all the legislation. The author, co-author, and sponsors of those bills, and any of the committee members, if a bill is blessed enough to get to committee, should be intimately responsible with that. The unfortunate world we live in, there's such a large saturation number of bills and a condensed legislative session that there is a lot of trust factor that a legislature has to put forward. But there's no question that property taxes is a major plank of the conservative party. It's the governor is mentioning in this. President Trump is mentioning this. A lot of states are talking about the abolishment of property taxes. It is an issue now that every single legislature should be intimately familiar with and be looking at all options. All options should be on the table, whether it's for substantial relief, but ultimately abolishment and full elimination of. But that's just the way that this movement is trending as these taxes have become so oppressive over time.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that?
Well, I would go one up, and I would say that the eliminating property tax, abolishing, repealing, whatever we want to say, is the biggest civil rights movement of at least my lifetime. There's nothing more important right now than ending property taxes. And going back to the bill, because we have so many irons in the fire, but all the material that we're sending out and reporting is well thought out. Math is used. We're stress testing it towards each other. I mean, Mitch and I were talking till 12:30. I'm beating him up. He's beating me up, and we come up with something. And his bill, the reason why his bill is so important is because it's the only bill that I've seen anyways that is addressing the elephant in the room, which is the bond debt. None of the bills that I've reviewed is even acknowledging the existence of hundreds of billions of dollars of bond debt, which again is one of the reasons why the overvaluation. It's one of the reasons why we're going bankrupt. And it's important to acknowledge the existing debt. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons why his bill is good. He's not making another tax. He's increasing the consumption tax. And the best thing of all of the bill that we have right now, Greg, is we can accept criticism. We can talk about it. We'll go into a public forum and get questions, and we'll allow people to beat us up. What I've been noticing that's been happening, this is unfortunate, I won't use any names, but a lot of times when someone gets any question or any kickback on their bill or in a law, they get blocked. I've been blocked from several pages for asking simple mathematical questions. And to be blocked when you really want to help someone, you really want to end property taxes, it's heartbreaking. It's pretty heartbreaking, to be honest with
you. And, people that are proposing legislation, whether it's, a legislator who's writing a piece of legislation, or whether it's they're working with a community group or a group of individuals to propose a bill, they have to have thick skin, and they have to be willing to have it get beat up, because when it gets to committee, you're going to have a short amount of time, and you're going to have, some invited guests that are for that bill, and you're going to have some invited guests that are against that bill. Yeah. And it has to be able to withstand that if it's ever going to have a real shot at getting through the House and through the Senate and to the governor's desk to ultimately become law. Right. And I think a lot of people lose sight in the process. And, getting a bill filed is just one step. Getting it out of Texas Ledge, that's another step. Getting it into committee is another step, but getting it out of committee and having enough support to push through is a whole nother ball of wax. And you got to be willing to really have people beat it up, because that's only going to make it better and make it stronger when it does have that short amount of time in committee. And it's awesome to see that Mitch Vexler is open to having that criticism, and open to refining it to make it, more palatable to, bottom line isn't just in the House of Representatives. You need 76 reps to get on board with it. Yeah. And let alone get through committee and get to the governor's desk.
I mean, we did that today for 2 hours, you guys. I mean, that's why I called them in. I called you. I'm like, go hard on Mitch's bill. Go as hard as you can. And then remember, I also pulled up the comments from Seth, who was blocked by someone with another bill. And I read the comments in to Mitch, because then we can also take the rebuttals. We can also take the concerns. I mean, when someone gives you criticism, it's a really major opportunity to shine. If you're blocking people, it shows you're weak. It shows dictatorship. When someone criticizes you, it's your opportunity, again, to show them and help them. This is my point. I appreciate yours. But, best case scenario, they transition to what you're saying and they become a fan. But it also gives you the ability to show the public that you have thick enough skin. The bill is strong enough to go through a gauntlet of bureaucracy. And if you can't go through the public, you can't go through the bureaucrats. So I think that's vital. And I don't see anyone doing that. By the way, when you were going hard on the bill, what did you think of the bill? The people's bill, Mitch's bill.
Yeah, I think it's a great bill. I have concerns about some of the other solutions that they're just not quite refined enough. They haven't evolved over time. They've been dead on arrival numerous times.
Talk about other bills or Mitch?
Other bills. Mitch's bill's a new bill, and unfortunately, it's going to take time to get enough visibility to probably push forward. Good news is we're beginning to think about next session now. That gives a lot of time to raise awareness and to begin to shop this bill for sponsors through the legislature. But it's definitely a solution to replace, the term eliminate or abolish property taxes. That's what we want to do, but it's not eliminating the revenue to fund government services. And so that, it's really a revenue replacement type stream. Hopefully that revenue replacement comes with smaller government and,
transparency,
easier, budgets that are, easier on the taxpayers and stuff like that. But it does offer a true solution to solve all of the problems. There's property taxes is a multifaceted hydra. There's local agreements that have been agreed on by the local population and those local political subdivisions. There's constitutional mandates to fund certain things like a city in the school maintenance and operations things. Bonds are different for every single district. Some districts have no bonds. Other districts are out of control in their bond debt. So all of these are difficult dynamics to be involved. So it's a complicated problem. It's not a one shot can fix it all. But Mitch's bill is flexible and it addresses the biggest issues that people have with a lot of the other legislation that's been proposed.
And another, this is, I hate playing the politics, man. I don't want the smoke. I'm not afraid of it, as you know, but I don't want it. It gives us our houses back. It gives us our houses back. Yeah. You can't kick out people, elderly that have their whole home paid off. They're late on their tax. That stops. It ends. You can't kick people out of the houses as long as it's paid off, right? But we actually get to own the roof over our head, and that is the biggest thing. I understand we need the replacement for income. We have to educate our kids. We need to call the police, or fire department or whoever, but not at the cost of kicking us out on the street if we stop paying. That is our house. It's a violation of the 16th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution to even tax us on our properties. So the fact that not only they could do that, they can also strong arm us out if we don't pay is another word for RICO.
There
and that's
you go.
A federal case.
RICO is federal organized crime.
And so we've reached out to the federal, and you'll probably see in the next few weeks, you'll start seeing things crumble apart. You'll start seeing more awareness. And that's one of the other reasons why we came today. We wanted to explain to you what was going on in the background, so potentially we can get ahead of it. I know the next legislator is supposed to be, legislative session, is supposed to be January.
Harder to say than rural
or ad valorem. He could call a special meeting. Yeah. So I don't care. If you show up with enough people in Austin, then the politicians have to listen to us, not the other way around. And right now they're playing us like a flock of sheep.
Yeah.
And it makes me super sad.
Well, and I've talked a lot about how we have some decent cities here in Johnson County. We have some good school districts and a really good Central Appraisal District Board of Directors. We also have a good rep who is very open, Representative Kerwin, this District 58, very, very open to solving the property tax problem. And we're blessed to have someone that is so open to any idea on the board, all chips on the table. She wants to hear about all of You deal on a state level with a lot of reps and a lot of different elected officials. Where would you put our local Representative Kerwin up in regards to her support of this movement?
Top. She has charisma, but she's also gentle. And I feel like with Helen, she really does care. and she's honest, and you can, and for me, my opinion on how to perceive politicians is they're all guilty until proven innocent. And what Helen has done is restored my faith in politicians, because Helen has proved to me specifically that she's innocent. If you know what I'm saying. So she's actually helping her constituents. She's helping her people. We've gone to her town hall meetings. She's let me talk. She's let Mitch talk. And she cares about her people. Any politician that's going back to their constituents to ask what they're doing, how they feel, that's how government should work. And I look at Helen, I wish we had more of her, but she is the number one. In fact, if we could just get rid of the Senate and the House, I'm fine with that. Just put Helen in charge of things, and we'll get to the bottom of this.
Do I hear a Helen Kerwin dictatorship? Endorsement there.
You know what? I'm at the point, man, where it's just like there's Helen and then there's frauds.
Yeah.
That's how I look at Helen. We got one Helen. The rest of these people are, and I hate to say it because I want to believe in them, they're a bunch of clowns.
Well, we're going to be reaching out to more reps as we refine this bill and we start we're going to start looking for people that'll put their name on it. It's going to be a contentious primary season, I think, after the first of the year. There's a lot of reps that are announcing their retirement, and there's going to be a lot of open seats. And I hope to join with you in raising awareness to the property tax issue so we can really bring that front and center as a campaign issue during the primary season and then the general election, which will be November 26th. And begin to spearhead the 90th legislative session in 1st of January 2027. There's more and more momentum for this, and there's more awareness being raised. Everybody's talking about it.
Right.
Again, Rep. Kerwin she's putting her name on some of these bills, and we're very blessed to have a rep locally that's doing that. Tell us a little bit about, we talked about Mitch's bill. He has a website. What's the website that he can go to learn about some of this bill and to educate themselves on some of the fraud that you're talking about with property taxes?
It's not some, brother. It is all things we've learned. So we, Mitch and I, and this is why we work together so well. We're not charging for anything. We're really trying to conquer apathy. And so all of the stuff we're learning, all of the stuff we're doing is free. And it's all of the stuff. And where you can go to get the bulk of that is Mitch's website directly, which is mockingbirdproperties.com/DCAD. So mockingbirdproperties.com/DCAD. Jeff Mashburn. These two men, between Mitch and Jeff helped with the bill as well. Jeff Mashburn, Jeff is so cool. Jeff has uncovered so much fraud on how they're spending the tax dollars through the school district. He's been able to identify certain construction costs being 3 times higher than it's supposed to be. Essentially, the schools is a shell. It's a slush fund. So you could go to his website, which is commonsenselaw.org. So you have Mockingbird Properties /DCAD. That's going to have everything. You go down any rabbit hole you want. Mitch has done a phenomenal job. This is a great website. Jeff as well. Jeff is an absolute patriot. You can go to realestatemindset.org. That's my website. Realestatemindset.org is not as much what they're doing with the property tax bill. My website's more about basically understanding the intricacies about purchasing a home. So you can learn how to use the math to find wedge, cash flow, different types of mortgages, how realty works. And I also made courses on how to protest your property taxes as well. As 42 chapters. I made this so you could do protesting your property taxes. I also have a course that I made with Mitch on how to end property tax. That's an incredible course. It is a mega course for free. So my website's more the video course stuff. So here's your lesson, next lesson, here's your test. I have tests, I have quizzes, I have all of that. I create the engagement. But the thing is, with all of these websites, you have to have the people that show up, right? So I'm kind of looking at Field of Dreams. If you build it, people, they will come. And so the hard part is having people be proactive after the podcast ends.
Well, and so we're gonna show right now. So we talked about your website, real estate. So right now for the viewers, they're looking at realestatemindset.org. This is Mr. Spencer's website that has some of his information. So that's realestatemindset.org. His YouTube channel, this is his YouTube channel. It's 201,000 subscribers, a massive YouTube channel. Has done a lot to educate people. Here's one of his more recent episodes with Mitch Vexler. Mitch Vexler, who his is mockingbirdproperties.com, and you go to the DCAD section, and this is what that one looks like. And then Jeff Mashburn, his is commonsense.law.org, commonsense.law.org. Here is his website, and he deep dives the bonds and what's going on with some of the bonds, and another agreement called Chapter 313 agreements, which we don't have those in Johnson County, so we don't talk about those much here, but they're basically property tax subsidized energy agreements that if you live in a county that has these going on in a school district, you darn sure better be aware of it, because there's something you're getting taken to the bank. You're getting taken to the bank with some of these. They're a problem.
And they're a problem as well. And, I've been able to, it's taken me months to understand these.
They're complicated.
They're so complicated. But the big thing that hit me is, because I'm also a residential mortgage loan officer, so the way that they're underwriting bonds, they're able to use future projected income from those projects. So say they're doing a 313 agreement to subsidize taxes, pass it on to the homeowner, and they're like, okay, in 5 years or whatever, you're going to make this much money. They can use that for current income workups to get more bonds. So if you ask the question, how are they getting these bonds still? Because you have to show you can pay them off. They're using those failing wind farm and solar panel farms to act like they're making the money now, but they're not making the money, and they probably never will make that money, because and then the other thing is crazy. It's supposed to create jobs. How many people do you see working on these solar farms?
No, they're killing a lot of bald eagles.
Exactly.
Killing a lot of birds.
So people, the more that people look under the hood, the faster they'll wake up. But the thing is they've indoctrinated the entire process. I mean, it's all propaganda. You got to literally turn the page, because the people looking at the cover of the book and saying, I know everything about this book from that picture and from that cover, but they forgot to open it and actually read it, and that's how people are getting bamboozled.
Well, and here again, this comes back on us. We as the citizens, we have an obligation to hold our government accountable, and we're not talking about pitchforks and torches going down there, but
it's getting that point.
Well, but just showing up and asking tough questions puts them in a position where it's much more difficult to begin to go into that gray area, right. And that gray area leads to a lot worse outcomes
if you're not blocked and suppressed.
Absolutely, and the bottom line is we have to remember we have an obligation. You're doing your part. I'm doing my part. Craig Hunley's doing his part. A lot of people in Johnson County are doing their part. We're blessed, as I've said before. We have a really, really a county that the most of our political subdivisions are turning that corner and trying to right that ship. So we're blessed, but we look forward to learning more about Mitch's bill. It won't have a number until it's filed, but it's replacing it's increasing the sales tax to replace the revenue stream of property taxes. It's eliminating property tax. So when you pay off your mortgage, you will own your house free and clear. You will not be subjected to having your house foreclosed upon for that Dallas Cowboy or football stadium or TCU inspired basketball arena like Godly loves to do. And
the four things that you listed that education is supposed to be about, none of those four things had a $500 million stadium.
No, it doesn't, and I'm going to, as we close this out, I mean, people really need to see how big this problem is. Godly's got a district with a little over 3,000 kids, and this is their history of their bond debts. And if you look at that bottom line, you will see that they currently owe $225 million. And on the slate of their amortization table, they're slated to pay $172,000 in interest for a total of just under $400 million. That's the bottom right corner there. $400 million of debt for 3,000 students. And they're asking for $120 million more.
To service that.
Absolutely criminal. If you're when you can't manage the resources the taxpayers are blessing you with, and you go into this kind of debt, you have a problem. And the community needs to look at an ISD like this and say, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to just default to they really give a crap about my kids. I need to look at the fruits of their labor. And when you have an academically underperforming institution that's gone into debt like this and is asking for more, and there's no accountability on their part for their missteps, and it's just drive on, give us more and more and more with failing academics, we have a problem. And that needs to be worked through with the voters and with who they're putting on those school boards. But the bottom line is there's absolutely failed leadership in that ISD. And for 2020 to current, they literally are completely flatlined in their academic performance. And as they've increased debt over debt. Yes. The average district in Johnson County here is $20,000 in debt per kid. Godly's at over 80, and their academics are garbage comparatively, and their debt they're just stacking it up on each other. It's sad. It is, and they're wrecking families for it. Yes, and people of that community need to put on their adult pants. And they need to make the tough decisions to say, my kids deserve better, your kids deserve better, and we're going to demand leadership change because you're failing at your core mission. And do you see any other saving grace involved without, having a coming to Jesus moment and acknowledging your faults and with a course correction with something like that?
Jesus is the only way, brother. But I don't see any good solution here. And the reason I say that is because it's mathematically impossible for us to pay this bond debt back. Yep. That's the point that it's got to. We can't pay it. There's 3,000 students here, and they think they could pay. The parents can pay $200 million. 400 with the servicing, which is the interest. They're out of their minds. It cannot be paid. It will not be paid. All they're doing in the meantime is taking the citizens down with them. The reason it got that way is, again, the lack of transparency, the lack of accountability, the indoctrination, everyone doesn't care anymore, and the complexity of financing. We are not sitting here talking about curriculum. We're not talking about teacher pay. We're not talking about the grade. We're not talking about any of that. We're trying to figure out, how did we get in this situation financially? That's not how schools should be run. You read the 4 bullet points. It's gone way off of that. And the reason is it's a shell. A school is a shell, and a lot of money goes through that shell. And with that, a lot of corruption. And I'm nervous. It's possible that some of these politicians, and I'm not, again, I don't have the proof of this except for the math. I think it's possible that some of these politicians are involved. And so one thing I would ask myself is, if I was concerned about a fraudulent politician or quick politician, is how much did their ISD school district pay towards their program or their fundraising? How much do they contribute to you? I think if you really want to nail it down, that's all we got to do. What school districts are paying this person?
Well, you talking about paying the superintendents?
No, I'm talking about contributing to their campaigns.
Oh, that's a great idea. There's definitely some problem with, taxpayer funded lobbying is a big deal. And school districts, taxpayer funded lobbying on that mass scale, it's absolutely horrible what they do, and using our taxpayer money to lobby for policies that are not consistent with the values of the community. It's pretty sad. And it is what it is.
It's not the 4 bullet points that you went over. It's not on there either. Where does it say in those 4 bullet points that you can go campaign for an elected official?
Absolutely not.
So this thing is out of control.
Yeah, we're in a problem. So as we close this out, we here in Johnson County, we encourage people to be intimately familiar with Craig Hunley's Facebook group. It's Eliminate Property Tax Texas Horse Barn. There's a lot of Eliminate Property Taxes groups out there. His is Eliminate Property Tax Texas Horse Barn. and it's a wealth of information. Give us some resources that you're familiar with that people can use other than your podcast, which is Real Estate Mindset, and the websites that we laid out earlier. Any other resources that the taxpayer can be involved with?
I mean, it's hard because those are so much resources on just those 3 websites. But I would say another thing that people should get familiar with is an amortization schedule. So if people want to understand like how houses or even bond debt works, pull up a mortgage calculator. Okay, mortgages are paid off by creating an amortization schedule. Put a 6% in there, put over 30 years, put a $250,000 loan. You'll see that you're going to pay back probably over double the amount. So if you're going to purchase real estate at one of the worst times in history to purchase real estate, you have to understand the amortization schedule. The amortization schedule is the difference between bankruptcy and success. Because if you don't know how to pay debt down, you're going to be enslaved to debt your whole life. So one of the keys to the amortization schedule is paying down principal in advance. Now, the other thing is use platforms, and Texas is hard, but use platforms that allows you to get sold data like the MLS. So if you have access to MLS, start using your MLS and start figuring out what true market value is. Or if you're going to buy a house, you have a realtor, ask them to do a subdivision analysis where they pull up all of the sold homes in the last year, look at the math, stop using your emotions.
You bring up amortization table. I'm going to give it one more little resource here, and it's a Texas Bond Review Board. Texas Bond Review Board has a wealth of information on the debt via bonds that any political subdivision use. And we've been talking about Godly. I'll pull up Godly's right here. As you can see, their debt outstanding, this is principal only, is $225 million. It's again right at $400 million with interest. And it has their tax supported debt, ADA, that's average daily attendance. So a lot of people, before I get to the amortization table, they're going to ask, well, what does attendance have to do with bond debt? Bond debts is based on property value. You darn sure better look at your attendance, because that's what funds the maintenance and operations side of your taxes. And if you build big, massive, expansive, expensive to run, expensive to staff facilities, you have to have the attendance to funnel the maintenance and operation taxes to maintain and operate what you build. And when you're a district like Godly that builds these massive, over just ridiculously expensive and expensive to operate and expensive to staff facilities, your maintenance and operation better play catch up, and you better have the attendance to pay for that. Is it fair to say that?
Well, it's just a legal requirement. Who's underwriting this, right? Like if you're the one that taught me about the 50-cent rule. So if it's over 50 cents per $100, it goes to the Attorney General. And the Attorney General is supposed to underwrite it and figure out if we need state funds to bring the bonds down, but no one's doing the underwriting. We know no one's doing proper underwriting, good underwriting, because the bond debt is only skyrocketing. It's not being paid down. So who's doing the calculations?
We have another local ISD here that 4 out of the last 6 years, they've had decreased enrollment, and they're trying to pass hundreds of millions of dollars in bond. I don't understand where they go. But anyways, back to BRB Review Board. Here you can see their tax supported debt per ADA. Godly's that massive one in the middle. This is the 8 most demographically similar districts. But this is the amortization schedule, and you can see this right on Bond Review Board. And here again, Godly, through 2054, they're still going to be paying on their existing debt.
If they stop now.
Right. And you got to remember, they're asking for $120 million more. They're not stopping. So this amortization table will continue to go up and up and up as you add more bond debts. And these districts love to sell these bonds as like, oh, well, we'll pay them off early, and when we pay them off, your taxes will go down. But every couple of years, they're adding more and more bond debt, much faster than their enrollment's increasing, much faster than their community's growing. They're just stacking debt upon debt upon debt.
And much faster than median household income.
Absolutely.
It wouldn't be necessarily a problem if we're all making $250,000 more.
Yeah.
But we're not. Income has stayed the same. I mean, real adjusted for inflation income is near where it was in 2019. Yeah. Yet the cost of living is absolutely out of control. I mean, they're going buck wild right now. I really, again, this is why I respect you guys so much. You guys have learned how to become one voice. And that's what we need to take what's happening in Johnson County, even with Helen Kerwin, and what you guys did with the Central Appraisal District. And we need to make sure we do everything we can to take what you guys have accomplished here and spread that around the state. If we can do that, we will win back our homes. And obviously other states will follow, but it's going to start in our own backyards. And it's going to start by standing up. And hopefully we'll have a mass protest soon to Austin. I know we got to talk about more about that, especially with Craig, but I think that's where we're going to be, man. I think we're going to be doing, you and I and Craig, we're going to be marching peacefully to Austin.
Well, and that if that's where we have to go to get heard, that's where we need to go. And the bottom line is we need the average citizen needs some relief regarding their property taxes. So, here in Johnson County, again, this is Texas Transparency Project. We focus mainly here locally. We are blessed to have some responsible school districts, Keene and Grandview. Citizens of those two communities, don't hold your community accountable for what you see being done in other communities like Godly, in regards to whether or not you're going to support, what your district's asking you to do. Not all districts are created the same. Cities continue to stay the course here in Johnson County. Most of you guys are doing really, really good. And a county commissioner's court, you guys are rock solid, extending additional exemptions to seniors and disabled, calling a no new revenue rate, and doing additional homestead exemptions. You guys are the standard for what right looks like. Thank you very much, as is the city of Godly. We are blessed again here in Johnson County to have some really, really responsible political subdivisions. And hopefully everybody will look at them independently because they are all governed differently. Mm-hmm. Don't hold responsible yours who's doing the right thing for what you see in other districts, because they are all independent. And as we close out this show, we want to thank you, Travis, for joining us once again. Real estate mindset, great wealth of information via podcast. But what do you want to say to the voters as we close this out on staying aware, continuing to hold their governments accountable, and the importance of learning how this process and systems work so they can make sure that they're not getting steamrolled by their local governments?
I would say, there's so much. I would say start, other than what we've covered already, unifying as one voice, protest. Protest the value of your house, because if you're not protesting the value of your house every single year, you're and not my words, but you're the sucker that's going to be stuck with everyone else's tax bill. If you've owned your house and you haven't protested in 10 years, you're taking the biggest hit. So understand, if you're not protesting, if you're scared, if you're nervous, whatever it is, you're going to pay the highest amount of taxes than any other person around you that's protesting. So step up and protest. And with that alone, your life should change greatly.
So thank you, Travis. And we look forward to watching your channel. We look forward to collaborating and trying to bring a lot of what's going on in the state, what we can use here in Johnson County. And hopefully there's some positive things going on here that you can help magnify across the state. So thank you. Look forward to watching Mitch's bill evolve and raise public awareness of that. And we'll catch you next time. And hopefully I can be a guest on your podcast in the future.
You're coming on.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Well, thank you. And once again, Texas Transparency Project. And we'll be watching the budgets and tax rates as they're approved by our local political subdivisions and school districts, and get ready for the November elections with a whole bunch of bonds and a whole bunch of constitutional amendments and some city council races. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll talk to you next time.